Hello, everyone. Welcome to our This Is How We Do It webinar series, where we discuss topics that help our customers streamline and improve their operations. This is our second session in a series of 6. Our new reality is that IT teams are being asked to do more with less resources available to them. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Alaji Pui. I lead the pre-sales technical team for CDW Canada. My team is responsible for helping our customers achieve the business outcomes they are driving towards. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to spend the next hour with you. Next slide, please, Jason. We have an exciting session for you planned today. We made some changes to the invitation that was sent out. For the content that we're not able to cover today, we're happy to connect with you after this session to take a deeper dive with you and your teams. Some of you are Cisco customers who may be new to ServiceNow or new to CDW's ServiceNow solution practice. Our experts will discuss with you how two great solution partners of CDW's, Cisco and ServiceNow, can be leveraged together to provide streamlined business operations and efficiencies. With today's complex technology stack, CDW is able to help you maximize your business outcomes through workflow automation. This ultimately leads to increased efficiency and giving valuable cycles back to your IT teams so that they can focus on the higher business value tasks. The team will introduce our ServiceNow practice and then dive into ServiceNow, starting with the CMDB, and then 4 areas we see integration or use cases where ServiceNow can be used to improve how you operate, manage, and secure your technology. CDW uses ServiceNow internally to manage projects, support both our customers and our own employees. We appreciate the value the solution delivers firsthand. Talk about eating our own dog food. If we can trust the Cisco and the ServiceNow solutions to run our critical business functions, we are confident you can as well. Normally, we have one great speaker for these webinars. However, today, we're joined by 4 amazing speakers from CDW. First, we have Puneet Duggal. Puneet is our Cisco Acceleration Lead at CDW Canada. He works with the Cisco business unit and across the CDW organization to build our Cisco practice that helps our customers achieve the business outcomes they are looking for. Puneet will present a roadmap on the data center space on how Cisco and ServiceNow maturity paths intersect and complement each other. Next, we have Marshall Black. Marshall is a senior consultant at CDW Canada's ServiceNow solution team. Marshall has over 35 years of IT operations, business development, and executive management experience. His focus at CDW is helping our customers develop and execute their digital transformation plans in the context of ServiceNow. Third, we have Jason Resendes. Jason is a team lead at CDW Canada's ServiceNow solution team. He's been with CDW for almost 6 years, helping clients with their digital transformation initiatives. Prior to CDW, Jason has spent 19 years at Rogers Communication in various roles. And finally, we have Tariq Rahmani. He joins us from our US business. Tariq has not only been delivering ServiceNow solutions for our customers since 2012, he's also an instructor of the ITOM module. As I said, we have an amazing lineup of speakers for you today, but I'm sure you're not here to listen to me. So without further anticipation, I would like to hand it off to Puneet. Over to you, Puneet.
So the slide coming up is the notional investment roadmap. And what you'll see here is how you can utilize a platform on your journey of a hybrid cloud operating model. So starting with stabilizing and aligning, and then finally constantly focusing on optimizing the way that you use your technology stack and build or modernize applications requires a different approach when it comes to hybrid cloud infrastructure or multi-cloud. Aligning your Cisco investments to provide visibility, intelligence, and automation gives you the assurance that the performance and availability of applications will allow you to drive digital transformation strategy. As your technology teams come together, breaking any previous silos that you had, support is needed to verify what is being done. Is there a better way to host an application? Do you have all of the visibility that you need to troubleshoot? And are you utilizing the solution for its full feature sets to achieve your business outcomes? Operating with flexibility and agility while maintaining stability is possible when you have designed for, integrated, and optimized the way that you digitally transform. And that's where the CDW team shines. But without further ado, let's take a step back and start with the CDW ServiceNow story. Over to you, Marshall.
And good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to walk through the who we are and what we do story of CDW and ServiceNow. So just looking at what we've got here on the screen, back in 2013, CDW became a ServiceNow customer. And through to 2017, we had been contracting with a company called Aptris, which at the time was a large and dedicated ServiceNow solutions integrator for professional services to expand the use of the platform. And by 2018, CDW was partnered in reselling Aptris services and successfully delivered over 100 high-quality projects. In 2019, CDW acquired Aptris in the USA and Scalar Solutions in Canada to greatly expand our ServiceNow professional services offerings. And more acquisitions of ServiceNow integrators and organic growth followed to the point we became the ServiceNow Global Elite Partner of the Year for 2021. And you can see here how we've been able to achieve year-over-year customer satisfaction improvement as measured by ServiceNow. And we continue to make investments to meet or exceed the selection criteria and to grow this part of our business to the point where we now have well over 400 coworkers in our ServiceNow team. Slide, please. So what does CDW do for you? Well, our technical support and professional services experts, architects, and engineers give your IT team the time they need to focus on how to turn ServiceNow into a competitive advantage for your company. From design to orchestration and management, we support you along the full cycle of your ServiceNow journey. Slide, please. So here you can see our service catalog. It's quite extensive, and I'm certainly not going to walk through or dwell upon any of these in particular, but I think you can tell from this that we've got ServiceNow covered. From best practice advisory through to implementation, ongoing management of your investment, through to training your team to be the experts that you need. Slide, please. And as already mentioned, CDW has been a ServiceNow customer since 2013, and these are the major business functions we entrust to ServiceNow. The CDW ServiceNow Solutions team, of which I'm a part, also makes extensive use of ServiceNow in running our own business and our projects on a daily basis. Slide, please. So here we have some information that highlights our deep technical knowledge and confirmation that we are also a go-to partner for ServiceNow. We have a very deep bench, and I'll draw particular attention to our certified master architects, of which there are only around 200 in the world. And these deep and wide technical capabilities and the many projects we've successfully delivered for our customers across every business vertical means that CDW is at the leading edge of ServiceNow's ability to support the most complex business workflows. Slide, please. And now I'll hand it back to Puneet. Oh, sorry, Jason.
Unmute, Jason.
Thanks, Balaji. Thanks, Marshall. So I'm sure everybody's heard of ServiceNow. It's the leading IT service management ITSM solution around the globe. ITSM is really just one suite of ServiceNow as a platform. It's a massive platform, like other suites, some of which we can touch on sort of a little later. But ITSM is heavily dependent, and maybe ServiceNow overall is dependent on configuration management or CDW. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So what is configuration management? Configuration management is a practice area that is defined by the IT infrastructure library, or what I always call ITIL. You'll probably hear me use that phrase throughout. Your IT organization uses a lot of different types of systems in order to deliver services to your business. The practice of managing these systems is called configuration management. ITIL also describes CMDB. The CMDB is used to store configuration records such as hardware and software throughout the lifecycle and maintains the relationships between them. In ServiceNow and in a lot of different systems, they're referred to as configuration items. So when we talk about CMDB, we just need to understand that we're not just talking about devices and the information about the devices. We're talking about many, many different data points and the relationships to represent in today's CMDBs. Pretty complex world we live in. These data points and relationships are what will enable you and us. We'll get into those in some use cases a little bit later on. But let's take a more of a deeper dive into the various applications that uses ServiceNow. Now, ServiceNow is called as reference. If you talk to ServiceNow as a partner directly, it's referenced as a platform of platforms. It has many different modules, but the one thing that all these modules have in common is the CMDB. From IT operations to the asset management to security, or even on the business side for IT business management, they all have common sort of functionality within CMDB. Hark.
Thank you, Jason. This is awesome. Thank you for covering CMDB. I think after that, many folks will understand the importance of the CMDB, not just to ServiceNow's platform, but also just in general to the all of the applications we're going to show you. If you don't have a CMDB in place, you're missing out a lot. All right, and so let's dive into the main ServiceNow applications. So we're going to start with IT operations management. So if you can move on there, a couple slides there, please, Jason. All right, and one more. Thank you. All right. So your IT organization uses a multitude of systems in order to deliver services to the business. As complexity increases, the capability of the maintenance system must also increase. So moving from a few racks in a server room to building out an entire data center drastically increases system complexity. So in ITOM, IT operations management, simplicity is key. A good ITOM system must be able to work with detailed amounts of data, massive amounts, but very detailed, while also efficiently communicating statuses to the right operations people to help ensure any issues are highlighted quickly. Next slide. So some of you may be familiar with ServiceNow's ITOM toolset, right? The IT operations management toolset. So back in the day, ServiceNow came out with really just the ServiceNow Discovery application. Now it's expanded way beyond that with a lot more capabilities. Discovery is a mechanism to efficiently discover your CIs, whether they're physical, virtual, or cloud-based. So Discovery can also discover applications, storage networks, your entire cloud or vCenter infrastructure. I actually worked in the past with a customer during an implementation, and the data they got back on their storage networks was just mind-blowing to them. They were like, "Whoa!" After this stuff came up in the CMDB, it was pretty eye-opening. Another customer actually wanted to take that data, and what they did, they actually set up chargebacks based on storage usage. So they actually attached the LUNs to the specific charging units, and that went up to the application service. So they were actually able to charge back storage costs to the services and the teams that used the storage. So pretty, you could get really detailed and gain a lot of insight and also benefit for your organization in terms of with Discovery. So click one, Jason. So the next one here is going to be event management, ITOM help. So event management allows us to ingest event information from third-party monitoring solutions, as well as ServiceNow's own installable monitoring agent. So ServiceNow also has its own agent, or you can integrate with third-party solutions. And there's also the help log analytics feature. This information is brought into ServiceNow. It's processed, simplified, and eventually shown on the operator workspace, either in the alert queue or directly on your service maps to help operations folks quickly identify problem areas. And then the final area within here is the ITOM optimization, which kind of covers the cloud provisioning and governance. This provides a cloud catalog for managing cloud resources, which allows you IT users to request and manage cloud resources while ServiceNow handles the approvals and actual deployment, whether it's directly or whether it's via Terraform if you have that deployed. Okay, next slide. So speaking about population of the CMDB, there are a number of methods ServiceNow's ITOM visibility suite can use to populate the CMDB. First, we have the agent-based method. So that's the one that top left there. And after that, we have various other discovery mechanisms, traditional discovery, as I mentioned. We have what is called service graph connectors that are certified integrations with different tools. But notice that they all pass that discovered data into the IRE, the Identification and Reconciliation Engine, prior to the data reaching the CMDB. So the IRE is a phenomenal tool that really allows us to define specific methods to determine how that multi-source data is merged together. So really from this slide, we want to understand that even if you have a bunch of different discovery tools, you can take that data, push it into ServiceNow. ServiceNow is built to handle all of those streams of data. It's able to handle prioritizing some sources, rejecting some sources if needed, and basically also understanding based on rules that you create how this data merges into a single CI record so the users of this data, your IT teams, are able to find one single pane of glass that they're able to use reliably, accurately, and efficiently. Next slide. So with the ServiceNow ITOM, we can leverage the power of the CMDB to assign devices specific to assign devices to specific support groups. So for example, when an alert is created for a specific CI, an incident can be auto-created. So if you click a couple times there, Jason, just do the, yeah. So we see the alert coming in there, you see the incident, and the incident can then be auto-assigned to that support group of that CI. So think about it, right? Instead of having your service desk having to always assign something, or your NOC team having to assign things, ServiceNow can basically assign it automatically based on data in the CMDB. This streamlining saves the ops team from having to manually triage the alerts, create the incident, and then assign the incident to the correct assignment group. When it comes to troubleshooting, it's very useful to have an understanding of what that big picture looks like. So ServiceNow, especially with the top-down service mapping and event management, allows alerts to show directly against service or dependency maps, which allows teams to quickly drill into the problem area and troubleshoot. All right, next slide. Sorry, there was one little piece there, but it's okay. We'll forgot that little one. So this is specifically talking about ITOM and Cisco, right? And really, from an ITOM perspective, there are numerous integration points between Cisco and ServiceNow. Given that ITOM is the application area closest to the devices, it's easy to see why we have so many. So on the left, we have some of the Cisco devices that can be natively discovered by ServiceNow's Discovery. So the moment you deploy Discovery, you put in the credentials, etc., the Cisco devices will show up natively within the CMDB. On the right side, we have some of the apps published in the ServiceNow store that interface with the Cisco devices and systems. All right, so next slide. So going into some examples and some a little bit more detail on here, right? So on this slide, we have a number of tables and fields that ServiceNow's Discovery populates. So Discovery connects via SNMP to, in this case, the Cisco network switch controlling the access points, and is able to pull this information and store it into the CMDB. This allows quick access to the data without necessarily having users having to log in to the Cisco interface to pull that data. It's all available in your CMDB in ServiceNow. All right, next. And what is pretty cool with ServiceNow's Discovery and ServiceNow in general, right? As you'll see, it doesn't only apply to Discovery. but it also discovers device-to-device and application-to-application relationships inside of the CMDB. So having this information available helps engineers understand the context and dependencies for better change planning and troubleshooting. Okay, next. The current Cisco ACI application that is published to the store allows ServiceNow to connect to the ACI Fabric controller to import Cisco ACI and MSO devices into the CMDB. This covers both the physical and the application topology. I'll show you that on the next slide here. There's a little image on this one, a snapshot of the relationships discovered by the Cisco ACI application. You can kind of see how you have the controller in the middle, and then all of the different access points, all of the different interfaces. They're all connected, and those are represented by relationships within the ServiceNow CMDB. So this is a really strong part of the CMDB that a lot of people actually discount. They think the CMDB is really just a list of devices. No, it's a lot more than that. It's dependencies, it's relationships, and if you add the service layer to it, it goes all the way up to the entire stack. And you can have monitoring, you can have accountability, you can have change oversight, all of that from top to bottom within a specific application stack or an application service. So it's really impressive, the amount of, from the very top level to the very detailed level of the individual devices and even individual components of devices that are part of these application stacks, how they all flow together, and you can use those within the ServiceNow platform. All right, so let's move on to the next area, which is ITSM, IT Service Management. And in here, and you can go to the next one, Jason, thank you. This is the area of the ServiceNow platform that has been the most popular over the years. In fact, the platform was really built with ITSM as the initial go-to-market application. So the founders of ServiceNow built this really cool workflow engine, essentially. And when they took it and they said, okay, we want to bring this to the market, the investors and so on, they kind of looked, well, how do you use this? You need to provide some context. And so they said, okay, let's take the ITSM route. And so they built ITSM on the ServiceNow platform and went to market back in the early 2000s, right? So since then, obviously, a lot more applications have been added, but ITSM has been, and I think still is, really the primary entry point for most organizations beginning to use the ServiceNow platform. So usually when we speak about ITSM, we think about things like incident management, problem management, change management. And there are a few other places, right? But the typical ITIL practice areas come to mind. Each of these areas works best when they are leveraging the CMDB, which obviously would then be leveraging the various integrations to get information about Cisco devices. So your Cisco devices plus the ITSM portion of ServiceNow, all that coming together helps you to deliver better services, better support to your organization. All right, next slide. So how does ITSM use the CMDB? Let's just take a little bit of a, get a little bit into the weeds here, right? So first of all, we talk about incident management. With the CMDB in place, we can take a CI and look at its incident history. So imagine you have let's say a network switch. You can pull that up, that record up in ServiceNow and take a look at all of the incidents that have been logged against that switch, or even changes, right? So how many times has the hard drive failed on the CI? Extrapolating from there, how many times has a hard drive failure occurred on this model of CI? So it goes beyond just that one device. You can actually use the reporting capabilities of the platform to get histories and get information on all of your devices, from grouping by class, grouping by ownership, however you want to slice and dice, you can get that information and use that information to make business decisions. So also we have, can you click one time, Jason, please? We also have the auto assignment we mentioned earlier. Oh, yeah, thank you. That's good. We also mentioned the auto assignment. So a lot of times we do suggested assignment, right? So auto assignment is typically when you have alerts coming in from the monitoring tool. But when people log, incidents directly to ServiceNow, we usually recommend more of a suggested assignment, so that the the service desk is able to understand, okay, well, based on this specific CI, which assignment group should actually take this CI and, this incident and work it based on the type of CI, right? And when we submit incidents against the devices we use, wouldn't it be cool if ServiceNow can ask us which device the incident is regarding? So you pull up let's say you're an end user, right? And you go to the ServiceNow portal to say, I need help. I want to log an incident so I can get help for my devices. What if, when I get to that page, I have a list of all of my company devices listed there, and I can simply choose the one device that I want to log that incident for. So all of this is because of the CMDB. It's made possible by the CMDB and having that data in the CMDB, right? So whether it's Cisco or other devices, but obviously our focus is Cisco today. But so next slide there, Jason. All right. The other in here we have one of the biggest worries of a team considering a change request. So imagine when you get to having to do changes. I know many of you would have specific change management processes in place at your organizations, and you rely heavily on those change management processes to eliminate or mitigate risk when it comes to making changes to your infrastructure. So one of the biggest worries your teams typically have considering a change to a specific CI is which application service or application service stack will be impacted as a result of that change. So if I upgrade the operating system on this server, will this affect my PeopleSoft application? Will it impact my customer portal? Which application is going to be impacted as a result of this change? So this is especially true in large organizations with complex IT environments. With a CMDB in place and application services used, ServiceNow is able to automatically identify CIs that may be impacted as a result of that change, basically helping to simplify the process of planning your changes. What if you can pull up a map of your entire application stack? You can see exactly which device is going to be there, and you can also see which other stacks this device is involved in. So it's not just your customer portal, it's also involved in an internal portal. It's also involved in something else, right? Maybe this is a SQL server or something, right? And you can see at a glance all of the applications being impacted by this one device. So if you do that upgrade, you have to go communicate to these teams and say, hey, look, we're upgrading this server. We need to have a plan in place to mitigate this. We need to schedule an outage, et cetera, et cetera. Now, going into the automatic change risk calculation, we also wonder sometimes how risky is a change. So it depends to a degree on the business criticality of the systems involved. So having a change in something that is internal and maybe supports only a very small group of people is very different from making a change to a device that's involved in a very business critical bit of functionality that, let's say, is customer facing or it's finance involved, right? Things like that. So with your CMDB in place and the business criticality being tracked for your application services, ServiceNow can easily include the risk of a change based on the business criticality of that CI. So one more click there or a couple clicks there, Jason? Yeah, dynamic approval. So many times we have devices that support multiple application stacks. Therefore, in order to perform a major change to that CI, some companies require approval from all of the application owner groups prior to that change being approved by your change advisory board or CAB. With service maps in place, it's quite easy to determine which services a CI affects. So change workflows can then be configured to capture the approval groups of these services and automatically generate approval requests to each of the groups so that they know you're attempting to make a change or you're planning to make a change to a critical CI within their application stack. Right? And then finally, we have request management. So instead of a boilerplate service catalog, kind of going back to the example I raised regarding the incident, wouldn't it be cool for your catalog to know you and your situation? So for example, let's say I'm a desktop user, I'm looking to order a webcam. So I can see when I go to the catalog, it says, okay, you want a webcam? Is it for this device? Or here are the webcams that are compatible with your device. is going to be different. Let's say a desktop webcam is going to be different from one that's made to attach to a laptop, say for example. Okay, a mobile device user could order a charging cable specifically for the mobile device that person uses, that model. So whether it's Android or Apple, right, you have a different charging port, etc. So a smart catalog in that way can be built based on the information in your CMDB. All right, next slide, please. And I see some questions coming in, so that is awesome. Our team will be getting to those questions either during. I see Jerry actually answering one, which is good, and so please keep them coming, and we'll answer them. If we don't have time today, we'll definitely get back to you on those questions. So please keep them coming, and we'll see. So from an ITSM perspective, kind of looking at the Cisco side of things, we have a few applications that integrate with the Cisco ecosystem. So for example, we have the Cisco Secure Endpoint, and what that does, it takes event data and it can generate incidents inside of ServiceNow. We also have on the screen here the third-party Ingenious application that connects ServiceNow with your Cisco-based phone system to provide things like screen pops, click to dial, and many of those productivity-enhancing features that you would expect in some of these platforms. All right, next. So now let's switch to a more business-oriented application within IT, and that's asset management or ITAM. Next. So whereas configuration management that Jason started with, right? You remember it's all about discovering devices and understanding the role those devices play within the application services, so you can track criticality and all these good things. Asset management is really more interested in the financial and contractual aspect of these devices. So for example, was a device leased or was it purchased? Is there a support contract? Is the device active or has been retired? If it was retired, how exactly was it disposed? Right? These are questions that your asset teams tend to want to audit, and these are the questions they are going to be asking about your asset management processes. So whether you are dealing with hardware assets, you're dealing with software assets, ServiceNow has that capability built into the platform. And the CMDB actually feeds that data into your IT asset database. So if you have a single device, that device has two flavors. You have the technical side, which, for example, a desktop computer will tell me things like the number of CPUs, the size of the hard drive, the amount of memory, right? All of the techie sort of things. And on the asset side, it's going to tell me, well, how much time do we have on this lease again? Is it supported by a manufacturer contract, et cetera? So all of these things can be captured within ServiceNow. It's just two sides of the same coin, essentially, right? That's that CI record. And so I give you a good example, right? I think this is about a couple of years ago. I worked with a customer, a city actually in California, where we implemented asset management. So this team, they had a challenge, right? So every year the IT asset team had to prepare a budget that they would take to the board in order to get approval for financing for the next year. So they would have to include things like, well, all of the existing devices, how much depreciation have we had on this, and then how many devices we expect to buy in the upcoming year, et cetera. And so they would have to prepare this big report that would actually take a couple months actually to create. And then they would take that to the board in order to get their planning done. Now, this was not only was it time consuming, it was also very manual. So what we did when we went in, we actually completely got rid of that whole paper process. We were getting devices in by discovery all into the CMDB and obviously populating the asset database at the same time. Having that information, we then populated information such as the contract, the things like the depreciation amounts and what have you. So all of that was now available in ServiceNow. It was being calculated now from within ServiceNow. So by the time they got to actually building the report that they would take to the board, it took them probably a few days, and really it was more verification of the data in ServiceNow than actually having to go and find these devices and determine what the status is, etc. It's all there in ServiceNow. So from a couple months of work down to a few days. Massive savings there. All right. So going on to the next slide, there's not a lot to talk about when it comes to ITAM and Cisco. These are actually CMDB. These are more CMDB related applications, but you can use them, right? They're there to get information from your Cisco devices and use that information to populate into the CMDB, and then by extension your asset database. Okay, next slide. So now our final area in ServiceNow we're going to cover is IT security management. So lovingly known to the ServiceNow teams as SecOps, right? So next slide, please. So this is an area that is of critical importance in today's IT landscape. If we were to do a poll on everyone here, I'm sure the vast majority of us would have been affected by at least one security breach in recent years. So I'm sure some of you can even, maybe repeat some of the big high-profile breaches that we've heard of recently. So IT security, from an organizational perspective, is committed to protecting organizations' IT landscapes from threats, ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of IT assets. So ServiceNow's security operations toolset is a comprehensive suite of applications that enables IT security teams to proactively monitor the landscape for threats and coordinate a response when threats are detected. It's also able to ingest data from multiple third-party security tools, including from Cisco, and prioritizing responses based on business impact. All right, next slide. Let's discuss now some of the data that can be useful to IT security teams. And this is obviously looking at the CMDB again. So first of all, the CMDB can provide an inventory of hardware devices on the network. Whenever an incident comes in regarding a specific device, IT security can quickly access details about that device from the CMDB in order to determine the best course of action. User information is also readily available because a lot of times, especially with personal devices, the user is actually attached to the device that they own, right, that person owns. So it's pretty easy to get these relationships within ServiceNow. And secondly, the CMDB has a record of all deployed software that has been installed to devices in the network. In the event a vulnerability has been detected, and when I say the CMDB, I'm talking specifically about when you bring in software data. So tools such as ServiceNow's Discovery, we have Service Graph connectors with Intune and SCCM, et cetera, that bring in software data, and we can use that information. So in the event of a vulnerability has been detected, those devices can be easily grouped and users identified so that action can be taken. Further, the presence of unauthorized software can be handled in a similar fashion. So if, for example, you have someone running Zoom on that person's work computer, you can flag that in your ServiceNow your ServiceNow installed software database, and you can go and tell this user, well, this is probably a violation of company policy, right? Things like that. All right, next slide. So if you subscribe now to ServiceNow's SecOps toolset, so this is apart from the ITSM, this is specifically for security, you're able to leverage the CMDB even more. Your vulnerability tools can actually feed ServiceNow, which can bind the data that's coming from those tools to the specific CIs in the CMDB and tell you what the impact is on your IT services. All right, so let's go on to the next slide, which is kind of talking about the Cisco aspect of it. So from a IT security perspective, many of the ITOM integrations that we already covered, they provide a significant amount of the information that can be used. So again, ITOM kind of took the vast majority of all the integrations, right? But specifically here, ServiceNow security operations can leverage the Vertex refer and response capabilities provided by the Cisco SecureX threat response to assist the security analyst in their investigation workflow. This enables the analyst to take response actions from within ServiceNow to remediate threats. So we've covered ITOM, IT operations, we've covered ITSM, we've covered IT asset, now we covered IT security. Hopefully this information gives you a little bit of insight as to how ServiceNow can leverage the information from your Cisco devices, your Cisco infrastructure and ecosystem to better serve your organization from an IT perspective. So now I'll hand it back off to, I think it's Puneet, to look at some of the takeaways from today's session.
I'll actually take it over. Terry, thank you for that. I don't know if there's any questions. We have about 15 minutes or so. So I'm just going to pause here just to see if anyone has any questions. Maybe just take yourself off mute and ask any of our speakers any questions you might have. In once. I know there's a couple of questions that were asked in the chat, and I believe all of those have been answered. Puneet, did you want to say anything before we wrap up here?
So I think we can either just summarize the chat just for everyone's benefit, and then we can wrap up. So the questions that were asked, in case somebody can't see them, on mobile or something, but there's a question around ITSM assessments and optimization if CDW offers the service, and yes, we do. So feel free to reach out to our team or your CDW account manager to get more details and start that process. There was also a question around deduplication, if that was going to be a manual process, and Gino mentioned that you can leverage the IRE function to identify and remove duplication. So just wanted to summarize that for the group, but otherwise we can wrap up.
Cool. Well, thanks to all of our speakers, Puneet, Marshall, Jason, and Tariq, for discussing how Cisco and ServiceNow could be utilized together to drive operational effectiveness and also to improve end user experience. That's ultimately what we're driving for, right? It's all about driving business value. And I'm sure the audience has learned as much as I have. So we'll just wrap up again. If you would like to learn more about some of the topics and some of the solutions that were highlighted during today's session, we have a team of experts, solution architects. They're available to support you. And just remember, our pre-sales activities are at no cost to our customers. So please reach out. We're here to help you. Thank you, everyone. Truly appreciate your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.